Okay. The only thing I want to say is, one, the country has run into a roadblock. They are totally frustrated, and they are looking for an alternative, no doubt about that. Because if they don't go to vote, they are not good citizens. If they do go to vote, who do they vote for? What are the options? First, choosing one of the two evils, that is one. Number two, you mentioned that by giving political alternative, that Anna and his team would be diluting their focus. I don't think so. They would not be diluting the focus. And number two is, you said they would lose the moral right. In fact, I think they would have a greater moral obligation versus losing moral right by any standard. If they get involved politically, their moral obligation will be much more rather than losing any moral right.
Okay, now
so hence, sorry.
Yogendra Yadav, I also have your friend Manisha Priyam with us in the studio, and I don't think she's very supportive of this. Manisha, do you think Dr. Yadav and all the well-meaning citizens who have appealed to Team Anna have set them on in the wrong direction? I want you to make your point directly to him, and then I want to hear him respond, because he wasn't there when you made your initial observations. Manisha.
Okay, the point. The point directly to Yogendra is that the suggestions are actually in the right spirit, because this team had taken on the very important weapon of the fast once again. And the fast as a weapon, the imagery that they use is not literally a copyright of the Anna team. It's something that has been built over the 200 years of India's independence movement. And I could see that this movement was in fact petering out. So to that extent, not just Yogendra, I think there's Kuldeep Nayyar, whose name I can see on the list of the signatories. And all these people have been stalwarts, citizens for democracy, even prior to the coming in of the anti-emergency movement. So to that extent, I think as the political intelligentsia, it's been a very valid suggestion. If a class of activists is not able to look at the next political move that they can make, the weapon that they can adopt, and they are, at fasting, they are losing out the energy that they have, I think that's been a very welcome move to suggest that they think now, step back now, and think of the next steps. However, since the time that Yogendra and others wrote this letter, look at the speed with which the decision-making machinery of the Anna team itself has worked. So, a mobile phone number has been flashed. There's something called a referendum.
So what
a
are you
referendum,
suggesting?
once again, is a word that does not belong to the Anna team. It has a political history. It has a constitutional and legal history.
It's a referendum on joining politics.
Tomorrow, some of the articles in newspapers should point out that referendum is a very sticky word. I mean, it's a personal decision that the team Anna has to take whether they want to launch a political party or not. The term to be used here is not a referendum. Next we will hear is that they will hold a plebiscite when the we go for elections in Gujarat. So I think the team itself now needs to go back in a mode of chintan. There have been examples in Indian political history when you do active politics, when you do mass politics. Sometimes when things do not seem to be leading anywhere, you go back into a retreat, but still dwell on an agenda. I think the agenda that they have taken up is larger than the lives or the methods they represent, and they should to that extent retreat with this good political move in their hand. And these moves may not, for example, I was just discussing in the interlude, for example, how are they going to fight the battle in Gujarat, for example, where the issues clearly are secularism versus talking about the tom-tomming of a development agenda. There this anti-corruption strict or the Jan Lokpal bill is not going to be an issue.
One second. There are many people
in this binary polarization as a political party.
1 minute.
They may not be in a situation to fight the elections.
Manisha, there are many people here.
To retreat and think back and reflect.
No, there are many people in this group of signatories who may not have a very detailed knowledge of the way Indian political system functions. But I wouldn't say that for Yogendra Yadav. If anyone knows how the Indian political party system functions, is Yogendra Yadav. Therefore, Yogendra Yadav, my direct question to you is, let's take an example of a party's organizational hierarchy. Let's take Vani's party, for example, because she's very agitated today. The BJP, 49 office bearers, 12 general secretaries, national executive of 77 members, 11-member parliamentary board, 18-member central election committee, 26 state general secretaries, 6 separate organizational fronts, and over 100 national and state cells. That is an organizational structure. If you want to make a political party win, right, you'll agree, Yogendra Yadav, whether or like it or not, you'll need some structure like that. Obviously, you know, heart of heart, Yogendra Yadav, that this group cannot put together this kind of a structure for a very long time? Aren't you aware of the practical difficulties they will face?
Arnab, you are absolutely right. Not just this, there are huge other practical problems. There is a problem of resources,
Yes.
problem of the social diversity of India and how a movement like this were to accommodate that, problem of one issue movement now taking on the entire spectrum of political issues in this country. These are very tough questions, and I entirely agree with Manisha that these should not be sorted out within a 2-day referendum. I really hope that's not how these issues would be sorted out.
They say they'll decide by tomorrow.
Referenda are good. They give you some sense.
They say they'll tell you by
No,
tomorrow.
I mean, settling the fast. No. What they are doing by tomorrow is simply taking one basic policy decision. But these real questions about what would be the organizational structure of the party, whether it would be a top-down party like all the parties that we have seen, what kind of transparency would this party have which would be different from other parties, what kind of internal democracy could this party possibly have, how would its resources be collected, what kind of options and opinions would it have on a wide range of questions. These are things which they should take time on, I would imagine, not just 2 days, not even 2 months. This is a much longer process. This is a very large and very complex country, and I really hope that their eyes are not set only on 2014. They could do something interesting in 2014, but as a political analyst, I would say my baseline expectation would be 0, which is to say no parliamentary seat at all. A movement should be willing to consider that possibility. And let us remember Kashiram, who I thought was a great political strategist of the country. He said, more than any political scientist like me, I think he understood Indian elections. He said, पहला चुनाव हारने के लिए, दूसरा चुनाव हराने के लिए, तीसरा चुनाव जीतने के लिए. So he had a 15-year perspective in mind. I really think Team Anna should think of something of that kind, and I'm sure they would think about it. This movement has made its mistake, but they have learned. I'm sure they would learn.
No, but will they last 15 years? You know, the problem also is Yogendra Yadav, and I want to bring this to Krishna Prasad's notice because he's no admirer of this movement from day one. People like Krishna Prasad will say that we seriously doubt whether a unifocal, this has been a Lokpal focused group, can last out 15 years. It's also a group that is promising quick solutions. The language of the group, there is a nature of impatience in it. It reflects public anger. Public anger comes very quickly, it can go very quickly as well. Can't it, Krishna? Do you think people of this country will wait 15 years?
Absolutely.
For this team to have some impact politically?
Yogendra Yadav will bear me out on this. The simple issue is this. I think you're looking at this social movement turned political movement from a top-down view. I think politics in this country is from the bottom up, and I think that view has been absolutely invisible for Team Anna. They seem to think, and all their spokesmen and other closet supporters seem to think that they will just start a party and they'll win assembly seats and parliamentary seats from here and there and everywhere else. But frankly, there are hundreds and thousands of people who are working at the grassroots. I mean, besides all these office bearers, do they have people to stand for elections in the local body elections? Can they win a Jilla Panchayat election? Can they win a Gram Panchayat election? Can they win all these elections? I mean, elections is not just, it's not like Sachin Tendulkar does not start playing cricket and hit his 100th century. He hits the first century and then 99 more. I think Team Anna is really devoid of that perspective. They seem to think that they'll hit the 100th century first. That can't happen. You need to start from the bottom up, and I think that is something absolutely something that the Team Anna and gang have been,
that's what Yogendra Yadav says.
That said,
lose the first.
This whole thing of pluralism, which Dr. Yadav is talking about, is something we must really keep in mind. But this issue of Assam, for example, how are you going to deal with those issues? How are you going to talk about Assam? How are you going to talk about Gujarat? How are you going to talk about Karnataka, where specifically Karnataka, because
I know where you're getting.
Team Anna has been astoundingly silent on the corruption in Karnataka. So I think there are plenty of issues that Team Anna needs to deal with.
Vani, I'm running short of time, but I give you 30 seconds before I wrap up. But we've sparked up a debate. Yogendra Yadav, who I consider to be one of India's best political thinkers, says it will take 15 years to form a political party. For it to set roots. I don't know how patient the people of this country are. Vani, you want to make a point? 30 seconds into the debate. Newshour at 9 is coming up in a few minutes. Vani, last word to you tonight.
Yes. Not even 30 seconds, not even 30 seconds. I would just take 5 seconds and say, I have absolute respect for what Team Anna is doing. We welcome this decision that they have taken in a democracy. Every single voice which actually talks about anti-corruption has got to have its way. If election is the way, so be it. But just one little message, one little request from a politician and a political outfit. Let it not be a private limited company which is ruling the country. Let it be a party which also takes accountability. If it is a party accountability and a leadership position.
But it may not be an ancillary unit either to the BJP.
And as far as Karnataka and Gujarat is concerned,
Vani, it's not going to be, at least as of now, an ancillary to the BJP as well. Look at the number of signatories. Look at the number of signatories. You find some of the staunchest anti-BJP voices also among them. Now I cannot compete with you. But we will have to take a break at this point of time. Newshour at 9 coming up. Great to see you, Yogendra Yadav. Great to see you, Ryan Karanjewala, Krishna Prasad. To all my guests joining us from Delhi, thank you very, very much.